everybody. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I am Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker. And I am in the room.
You're back in the
today.
room with us.
Yeah. For those who've been following, I have not been in the room the last, 4 or 5
episodes, something like that.
And I mean, it's because I'm a slacker. Let's just start there. And that's fine. And I carry the show down. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, Ellen's like, stop joking. No. So my wife and I just bought a house last month and then got a dog in the same week. And it was a really bold strategy, Cotton. Let's just say that. And so I've been kind of navigating the puppy world and the house world and stayed home because it was easier. And now I'm like, you know what? It's time to broaden my horizons and go back to Allen House for the 57th time.
Life comes at you
Life comes at you fast. If you don't stop and look around, you might miss it.
So this is episode 57.
It is.
You have to get out of here afterwards to do volleyball.
Guys, I am dedicated to this pod. I came over. I'm not even going to warm up here. This is 32-year-old Jim talking. I'm going to go to this volleyball game right after. Non-warmed up. I'm probably going to pull something, but it's worth it because I get to hang out with Alan and Cassie, who you're about to meet. So
yeah, I was saying, join us next week when Jim when I
inevitably and casted. And yes, it'll be.
My wife just got certified to be an
athletic trainer. I was going to say, Laura can help me out with this.
So it's perfect.
We're good. So on that note, I'm so excited to be here. I have a very special guest that I want to introduce you guys to. So we'll explain a little bit about how we met. It's been an 11-year friendship because we can do the math because we essentially know the date it was. But I want to welcome on Cassidy McCants. And Cassidy is a content editor for Consumer Affairs and a freelance writer and editor, which sounds familiar, Alan.
Very similar to what I do.
And Cassidy is from Oklahoma, and that is a new state for us. So shout out to us for getting new states.
Where the wind moves swiftly down the plains. Is that right?
Did I get that right? Is that a thing, Cassidy?
Well done.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, on that note, welcome Cassidy to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
That was perfect.
Dramatic effect.
I was like, Cassie, you're more than welcome to say hello. I love it. So
Cassie, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Well, let's start off. That was awesome. Let's start off with first things first. So Cassidy and I, both from different college programs, had a chance to study abroad. And for those who are listening, who are in college or high school or an adult and just kind of want to relive the glory years, studying abroad is a wonderful thing. We went for only 1 month in Galway, Ireland, back in the summer of 2012, which is
you went to Ireland and made it back alive.
I somehow did. Yeah,
college Jim
made
it to
not by
Ireland.
Not by much, I will say. And Cassie could say the same thing. It was definitely I know, Cassie, you and I are similarly wired like this. We are both we're both studious. Like I would consider myself like I did really well in college and studied my butt off. Ireland was the one time where I quite literally was like, C's get degrees. Like I didn't look at a book. And I say that like not to brag. It was just like that was a really weird experience for me to go into a final not having read anything of it. And I got to see like we're good to go. Cassidy,
study abroad, kids.
Yes. Study abroad. That's we spoke with one of our friends from who we met in the program in Ireland just a few days ago, and she was like, I don't remember going to class. Yeah.
It was awesome. It was so we had like, and I'll just set the scene here. I came obviously from Marquette. Cassie, what college did you go to again?
University of Arkansas.
That's right. So we came from different programs and we're just sort of part of this one thing. And a group of us all sort of met, about maybe 10 of us, 12 of us, all kind of met up from all different parts of the world. And to this day, actually, as recently as this past Friday, which I know when you're listening, this will be like 2 Fridays from
No, it was like, it would be for 2 Fridays. Yeah. I can't do math. It's in my butt.
Don't interrupt me and be wrong about, okay. Jeez, the nerve of this kid. So we had a team's virtual reunion and just got together, had a couple of drinks, and just it was so fun. We rehashed and talked about all these memories. So anyway, that's how Cassie and I met. And during this reunion call, Cassie's like, hey, I have a side hustle. And I was like, that's fun. I have a podcast talking about side hustles. Maybe we should get together. Here we are. So Cassidy, on that note, I'm talking way too much. Let's hear more about your background. I know obviously you went to University of Arkansas. That was spoiler alert there, but tell us a little about where you come from and where you're at now.
Yeah, so I am from Tulsa originally. I went to University of Arkansas. I studied English and creative writing. And so correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but it was a Irish film and literature. Is that like the program title that we did? Is that basic like
that sounds right, because I remember watching the John Wayne movie. What is that? What like where the wind? What is that movie called?
Oh, the one on the cliffs. Is that the one?
Yeah, something. And I didn't like it. And I remember
Notorious Irishman.
Yeah,
John Wayne.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, we watched. You're right. It was that woman that there was a teacher who came from. I remember like the parts of like that lady when her story, but not the class at all. But I think that sounds accurate. Yeah, that was in between Guinness.
Yeah, like I have always been interested in literature, and I opened my brain to actually writing for myself when I was in college, mostly focusing on like short fiction. So I left the program in Arkansas and I got an internship at Nimrod Journal, which is a literary magazine out of the University of Tulsa. So I basically went back home to do an unpaid internship for the summer. Like, I think maybe I would like editing. And this is like in the like writer's world that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. So I did that. And then I was kind of obsessed with the internship, and the woman who became my boss later kind of brought me on as a part-time employee as much as she could, because I didn't want to leave. I was like, hey, every month, remember, if this could be like a real job, I'll take it.
I mean, Cassie, that is so you to be obsessed with an unpaid internship. Like, just gathering so much experience from. I love it. That's like that's the dream attitude for any employer. That's great.
I mean, yeah. So, but it did turn into a job. I got lucky. Totally. So I was working, I think, probably like 20 hours a week for several years actually at that job, like doing coffee shop shifts and things like that. Just kind of immersing myself in the writing and lit world. And it was so fulfilling because, you know, as I try to strengthen my own writing, my own fiction, like being able to read submissions from other writers, it's really good training, like shows you what not to do when you're submitting your work out into the world. And so I loved it.
Yeah. I am curious because I mean, very similar here. Mm-hmm. I do a little bit of editing, but more so the writing part of it. And copy editing is something because you're going to see the really good writers and you're also going to see the really, really bad writers and everything that is in between. But I'm interested to know what some of your first stuff was and being able to make that transition from like creative writing, like more literature focused, to like doing like editorial kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's all kind of been in the same bucket for me. Like, I think I'm less of a storyteller than like a word interested person. So I think anyone who has read some of my fiction might say that I'm not like the strongest in terms of plot or like real narrative. I'm really just interested in the way the words are constructed and like how the voice and atmosphere come across. So that's why I became interested in editing. And it's like, I think I'm a pretty visual person, so I learned the rules of the English language pretty well when I was young, just like by reading. So I kind of liked incorporating the practical element of writing into my creative work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that. There's a basis in like having a big vocabulary that can be descriptive and be there, but also still, you know, push along a narrative too while you're at it, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, and I mean, when I joined that internship, it was kind of a way into the publishing world too, right? Which I'm still like very slowly trying to break into in a bigger way, but kind of learning how people get published and how the back end of things work, if you want to call it the back end, like writing versus publishing. So yeah, I wanted to do it as kind of a learning experience, and then I kind of fell in love with not only just working with words and like shaping them to be like better or more accessible, more readable, whatever, but also like publishing the work of new writers was so cool. It's like that is such a joy to be like, hey, you're a new writer and we're publishing your story. Like, this is really cool.
Feeling. That's, I'm curious, like just in terms of the plots of maybe some of the fiction work. And because in my head, I don't read that much fiction. I kind of I read, no surprise, I read a lot of leadership books and just like very tangible sort of like day in the life type of things. So when I think of fiction in my head, it's like the J.K. Rowling being on a train and thinking of Harry Potter. Like how do those ideas, like, is it similar to that where you're just like hanging out, daydreaming and something comes to your mind? Or how did you find that those will pop up of like, I really want to write about that?
For me, I mean, I write very small stories. So it often like everything will hinge on maybe a single image that for whatever pops into my mind. Yeah, daydreaming is a big part of it. I have to give myself time to like be bored, or in those weird hours between like, or moments between waking up and like being like really truly awake, I might have like an image or just a single sentence that compels me. I'm like, I'm going to try to base an entire little story off of this one little thing. And usually it's something like a little strange, but not beyond like reality.
Totally. And it makes me realize how much untapped potential there is that like people, I mean, because I have those moments where I wake up and the dream I had is still lingering a little bit and it feels like reality. Like I don't think to write about, like it's one of those like things where I feel like a lot of people probably can't, if they harness that into something really cool. What you've done is really cool. You look like
that's a hangover in your sense.
Oh,
that's
that's
not a lucid dream.
Okay,
dude.
so all my dreams about Gatorade and liquid IVs are okay. Good to know. I was gonna write a fiction story about blue Gatorade, but I guess I won't do that. Fair enough. Yeah.
Kid who got swallowed by blue Gatorade.
Yeah.
And then he woke up and it was 2 p.m.
If I have a night out, I literally now, this didn't happen 10 years ago, Cassidy, when you first met me, but I will now have a dream quite literally about chugging Gatorade. Like that's and I'll wake up just, I mean, mouth is so like that's that's all I can think about. It's pretty sad actually. For it's sad, but I won't write a story about it anyway.
I was saying back to literature.
Yeah, back to literature. Or lit. She called it lit. I want to keep that in mind.
Lit. Oh yeah, keep it lit.
I love that. Love that. Go ahead.
Okay, so with the lit, were you so I am not this person. I will very much admit I write all the time. I am very much never was this person. Were you like the English class, enter the creative writing contest kind of person in like grade school, high school, or like those sorts of things?
No, although I was always like interested in, like, I remember I always just wanted to like write a story. And very particularly like I wanted to write about like orphans on a train, because what was the was it the Boxcar Children?
Yeah. Oh, I love those books. Oh gosh.
I think that really affected me as a kid. So I really wanted to basically like imitate that.
Henry and Violet. That was my two favorite characters.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't thought about this in 20 years. That's
but yeah, I never thought that was something, I never realized that was something you could actually like offer to the world. Like, I guess where I went to school, like there were reading competitions and things like that, but not writing. So it didn't occur to me to like picking an English major, that like creative writing was an option, just I didn't think of it as like, and this isn't just me, I think a lot of people, it's like the magic of the novel or whatever, it just like comes into being, which of course it doesn't. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. And then I mean really creative writing is kind of like, it's like a marriage of like right brain creativity and like left brain like practical to like get a story out.
It's got to come out because it's almost overwhelming in a sense that you could think about anything.
Yeah.
And,
so when you have an abstract like that or an idea or a concept, like what is your kind of process of getting that to its kind of completed form? Like, do you come up with like a skeleton for it? Or like I'm using, of course, not actual English terms for this, but like do you just kind of like figure out the nuts and bolts of it and then kind of flesh it out from there?
I have to say I'm not the most structured writer. I have a lot of friends who are, and I love that works for them. But in general in my life, I think I don't operate that way. I kind of I don't wing it, but I do like I kind of trust in that single image or whatever it is, and I just try to stick with it and see it through and see where it pushes next. It is true that a lot of the things that pop into my mind that I'm like, oh, this is a story, are like what might be the ending of a story. So that if I put that down on a page first, then it kind of like I know where I'm going. I don't know how I'm getting there necessarily. I just have to show up. And I'm also not the most disciplined writer, but I'm really trying to be because, you know, it doesn't happen if you don't sit down and do it. So
Sure.
You know, it's funny. I is that process. I love it. Cassie, I think it's great. Like you should have your own subjective process. That's every writer is so different. I'm thinking actually, so Seinfeld's one of my favorite shows of all time. That's how Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld wrote Seinfeld. They would
oh
take
yeah.
a thing and they would form a story beyond it because you see how those two things connect well together. I mean, that works, right? And it's kind of cool to think of it that way. Like I have the conclusion down. Now, how do they all get to this point? Like I've walked through, which has to be like an exciting way to approach it. Like, well, let's put them because you control the destiny. You control what happens, and one piece of dialogue then leads to the next thing. Like it's like that one line that then changes the whole sort of trajectory. Like, do you find joy in that piece of it? Like, okay, I can make this whatever I want it to be.
I do. It's also a little scary sometimes, or overwhelming, or it can be hard to like really get started if I don't have enough of an idea about like how this could happen. And that's again when like kind of like letting writing be not just the process of sitting there, but like letting yourself like take a break for 5 minutes from whatever you're doing and like lie on the couch or look at the leaves or read something or listen to something or watch something that's like a little different from what you're used to. Like TV is probably a huge influence on me these days because there's so much good TV. Like I think I take nuggets all the time from the TV I'm watching.
Sure.
So sometimes it's a little more passive. But.
Sure.
Yeah, you absorb from everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first thing that you actually put out and like published and put that out into the world?
Yeah, this is a weird one because this is another instance where I got lucky early on. Like after I graduated from college, I remember, I did the honors program. So I had like a thesis advisor, right? So I did like 3 short stories for my thesis. And
yeah,
my advisor's like, so where are you going to submit these? And it hadn't even occurred to me that that's like part of the process. Like there are magazines out there that will publish your work. So I started talking to her about it and she gave me some suggestions and I ended up submitting to this contest and it did not win or get published, but it got an honorable mention. So that like made me feel like this is something maybe I could do. So I submitted it more widely. Like I sent it to a place called the Lasso Review for a contest. And I was a finalist in that one, which got publication. So that was a really cool moment. And it's just something that helped to propel me. Like, honestly, I might have just given up, like I don't know, without that sort of adrenaline.
I love that because it's validation, like a small sense of validation. Like maybe I'm not crazy. Like this thing I'm doing is actually people are finding value. I've had the same thing as a speaker. When I think about the first time a school called me, like, yo, you want me to? Okay, like I'll do that. Like, sure, because I never would have gone on. I wrote that talk for one event and never thought it would do anything afterwards. And someone else disagreed, and they were like, "We would like to do this." So same. I mean, I can. You're like, okay, so because you put a lot of effort into it, you enjoy doing it, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it does, like I'm in. Like you got to have that one moment. And that's a really important moment.
That starts the fire.
Exactly. Yeah. Throw some kindling on there and let it roll. So it's good.
On the flip side of that though, so I am a kind of person like I edit projects, I put videos out, stuff like that. I can't go back and watch my own stuff. Or if I do, like I can watch it maybe myself, like, but even when I was like a little kid, I would edit like a video and like my parents would be like, oh, put it on a DVD, we want to like show the family, right? So they would play it, and the second they would hit play, I would just like bolt out of the room. Like, I would literally because I like, even if it was something I liked
Yeah.
and I felt good about, like I can't watch my own stuff
neither.
around people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just never could. Like, do you have that at all with writing? Is there any sense of like, oh my God, I put this little piece of like my imagination out there or my thought process out there, and then like, please no one read it, but also everyone read it?
Yes. And I've received advice that's basically just like, that means you're growing. You're constantly growing. And I don't know if that's always true. I think there might be a part of me that like, even if I haven't grown since I wrote that story 2 years ago, I still might be like terrified to have someone like read it in front of me or something like that. But yeah, I think especially with older work, like something that feels like it's of the past, even if it's not that old, like something you're over and done with, revisiting it can feel really like, what the hell was I thinking?
100%. I mean, I've watched old videos of me speaking in like 2015, and I'm like, this guy stinks. Like,
Yeah.
he's like,
Oh yeah.
he's like not a good. I can't believe someone actually had him come to a school.
Oh yeah. Old articles and stuff that I've done, I
Yeah.
have totally looked at and been like,
Not good.
someone said yes to this, which is
Shocking. But then you take it, Cassie, to your point, you take it as growth. Like be proud of how far you come, right? And that's where it's at. And then you learn so many lessons from it, the things that you picked up. So I'm curious now, obviously with your side hustle, what does the freelance world look like? Like, are you calling folks to get work? Are you being contacted? How does that work? And how much time do you dedicate to it?
Yeah. So I will backtrack just a tad, because the reason I started, so there's my side hustle in terms of my like creative writing, and then there's the like freelance editorial work / journalistic work, and those are a bit separate. Like my own writing makes like money very occasionally, and then the other stuff can make like actual money, even if it's just a little, right? So it's like passion versus money sometimes. But when I was working at the literary journal, I was not making enough money to really live on. So it's like, 20-hour weeks. So I was like, well, there was a while where I worked at a coffee shop, which I also love. But I started, talking with people who were surrounding the community, the magazine where I worked, like, how do I break into editing, like freelance for myself? Like, how can I make a little bit of money off of this? So I started breaking in just bit by bit, like editing people's novels, stories, poems sometimes, although I'm still frankly like a little bit afraid of poems because I never really studied them. I'm always afraid of my feedback. But then, so now I'm in a more corporate job, making a little bit better money. Still really interested in keeping up with all these side gigs because I care about them, and it's more, it comes down to care. Like if
Totally.
it feels good.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, I was just thinking about this. I think it's probably like 3 hours a week that I devote to the stuff that I get paid from, like directly, like editing someone's work or writing like a journalistic piece. And then maybe about the same for like my own writing, the stuff that really fuels me. And that sometimes can lead to like some money, but that's not really the thing with it. So I guess that comes to maybe like an hour a day on average I'm spending on like side work.
Right. That makes sense. And that kind of checks out to a lot, I mean, because it depends on the nature of what your side work is. And, to your point, you have two, one that that monetizes a bit more and one that you just really love doing. And and you kind of split it up, based on that. But and I think that's what I find myself probably dedicating about that much time, maybe at night or
per day
lunch
kind of
break.
thing.
That type of thing. Do you feel the same way, Alan?
I put in a lot of time on breaking and entering, but I understand the freelance world too, because I mean, my main job, Shepherd Express, we have a lot of freelancers, and my editor has famously said to me that nobody gets rich freelancing for us. Nobody's going to make a living just freelancing for us. because they get paid pretty little per article.
Right.
But that, of course, entails like making it, a hustle in the sense of having to like find different publications then, because you can get a little bit here from this person, a little bit there from this person.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the freelance editing somebody's novel, because that has to be kind of a big task to do.
Yeah.
And what that all entails, because like, what do you do if the story sucks? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So, and just to be straightforward, like these days with my current schedule, like that is something I would probably turn down, right? Like my 7 hours a week I can devote probably won't go toward that at this time. But back when I was working, 20 hours a week, I did a lot of this kind of stuff. So it kind of depends on the person's intentions. Like if they just know they have something to say and they're going to self-publish and they're going to put it in the world, I'm like, okay, if this is what you want to say and this is your story, then we'll go with it. And it doesn't have to be approved by a publisher. So it's kind of like, if they're happy with it, then, I'll provide as much feedback as I can. But there's also like different types of editing. There's like the story editing. So like,
right.
I do like it when when there's a work that's not as strong. It's preferable when they hire me to be like, hey, this isn't there yet. Here are some larger notes on things you can do universally to fix it.
Yeah. That's a really good way of putting it, when the story is not as strong.
Yeah. Now, if they're looking for like copy edits, line edits on a novel that is not as strong, that can be exhausting.
Yeah.
Because if the actual prose isn't really solid and the story isn't solid either, it can exhaust your brain. So again, it's like, so there have been times where I've turned down doing line edits and instead offered like bigger picture feedback, just because I didn't think it was in a good enough place or far enough along in the process to focus on line by line. That's a hard thing to tell someone sometimes when, they really want it to be there. But like I said, people have different intentions with their stories or their novels. And if they just feel like this is the thing and they have to get it out, I can help them do that and just get it like as strong as it can be. It's really satisfying whenever like a story is far along enough to where it just needs some cleaning up and maybe some moving around of some pieces. And then but that's a great question, because it's tough. It can be really tough. I've had some awkward moments. Like,
yeah, I'm sure.
I would say I can only imagine being, having to go to somebody and be like, hey, maybe not this one, like maybe just go online with this one. Don't,
have you considered speaking versus writing? Well, are you only giving them written feedback back? Or are you verbalizing this too?
Since the pandemic, it has been, well, I think it's been a little more written or like, like electronic. Before that, depending on where they were, a lot of my clients would be in Tulsa just because, clients, not the right word, but
clients, writers.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But, that's the group that I found. So we would be able to have some really great conversations like in coffee shops in town or at the library. And I do like that because, obviously I like words and I feel like I can use them pretty well. But it's also nice just to look someone in the face and be like, this is what I'm thinking. I'm not judging you. I'm not like, we're both doing the same weird thing here. We're both aiming for this weird goal. And I get what you're doing here, but this is what I think might work better. And sometimes that lands better in person.
Yeah. Because I can imagine and I imagine like the line items, like when there's a level of granularity, like that one is easier to write, but when it's like context and like the larger piece, it's like maybe it's better to just like say this out loud. Like I'm thinking about when I'm talk to a coworker and we're like far. I'm like, I just call you. Like, I don't want to type this out. Let me just give you a call and explain it.
Yeah,
Like,
that is
it
probably the
helps.
best comparison
Right.
as opposed to like put a comma here.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
something like that.
Capital T versus small.
Yeah.
That is-
Have you ever found, I'm always curious with the like the main job and the side hustle kind of crossing over. Have you found that being able to edit people's stuff and freelance write, has that made you, make the side hustle go better? Or I guess, wow, after we just talked about having good words, I feel like I've lost all of mine.
Carry on. You're gonna send it home. Go.
But do you think that it makes you a better writer and editor being able to see other people's work? Use take two. Take two was good.
I do think so, definitely. There is when my day job was more in the creative writing world, I would get too exhausted sometimes. Like, I would spend a day reading story manuscripts, and then I would be like, why would I go home and write my own story and add to this pile? Like, blah, blah, kind of just like get down. Now that I have, we write about like, should I get an extended auto warranty? Things like that. So I can like separate the things a little better now. And sometimes that helps me to show up more for both
Right.
things. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, you're kind of in both worlds, unless you have a character that is getting that extended auto warranty.
Correct.
In which case, I just gave you an idea for a new story.
You did,
of course.
All right, Alan. So let's be clear. Alan was daydreaming in the middle of that response, and then he came up with the story. So yeah, thank you, Alan.
Character, and they get their extended auto warranty, and then they're transported somewhere to actually go get it. I don't know.
Well, and
the pieces are there. You can use that one for free. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. I love it.
That was the worst story that it came up.
That's horrible. This idea.
It is. That's actually, you have me thinking now, though. I'm like, what can I take from that I've learned from, like, I've learned some really practical stuff. Like I was telling Jim just the other day, like when we did our reunion, that I've learned about how mortgages work. I still haven't bought a house myself, but I have I feel kind of equipped, right? Like I have this practical knowledge, and that stuff can be good in a story because writing, especially longer pieces of fiction, sometimes they take a lot of research, like just knowing some like practical stuff.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And putting them into the world without
exactly.
There has to be some sort of fact checking so that your pieces of the story, somebody doesn't read it and somebody that knows about it, they immediately get taken out of it too.
Yeah.
Because they see that one thing and they're like, wait a minute.
That can't be it. Yeah.
So
I'm envisioning a story about a bunch of people going to Ireland and meeting each other over a summer. It's a very, very, very fiction novel.
Right.
It's great. What's Cassidy, as you're thinking about all the things that you're doing and how much time you dedicated to it and all the work you've done, what's the most gratifying part about your hustles, what you've done? I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about getting someone published. So do you think it's that, or is there something more personal to you, or what's really the driving force behind some of this?
I do think so working as like an editor and helping people to get published, that is definitely one of the big ones. And then maybe more selfishly, I think if I didn't devote work to like my own writing career on the side, I might kind of go crazy. So there's like a sanity check.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. That's why I like what I do on both sides, career and side hustle. But if I just dedicated all my time to career, I think I would get bored pretty, I need to have something that's like the email at 8:00 and I get it. It's like, oh, like, okay, that's that. Like, let's do that. Let's do that next week. That type of thing. It keeps me going. And there should be a selfish part of it because you enjoy it. That's what, it's your thing. It's your sanity check. And it's kind of like, this is what sets my soul on fire. And I enjoy that.
You were mentioning before about trying to break into the publishing world a little bit more and learning the back end of that too. Does that mean that there's an overarching goal here of getting your own book going and possibly?
I think there is.
Yes. Yes. I don't have a novel in me right now, but I've been working on a collection of short stories for a long time. So trying to get those published like piecemeal, and then eventually have something large enough to like put together as a full collection. So, and that is part of that is the ultimate goal is to get like a creative writing teaching gig, which usually takes publishing a book. So, and also I just want to publish a book, like
I would, right? Yeah, no,
it would be very cool. Yeah, just to say that you've had. I have thought about doing it. I've gotten a chapter in of trying to write one. And then I just kind of, in a different world, just ran out of time.
Well, it's funny. I have a title and a table of contents.
Oh,
like I think
that's a good start.
Which is good. But now it's like I got to put stuff within that table of contents to make it.
She's the closest out of all of us.
It sounds like you're getting there, Cassidy. Yeah. It sounds like you're getting there.
I mean, levels. I have to say, I owe it to my friends who will meet up with me for like virtual writing sessions. So totally. If you ever need a virtual writing session, I'm gonna
take you up on it. Yeah, I love it.
Wait, hold up. What happens at a virtual writing session? Like you guys just on Zoom, like head down, like putting stuff together, and then
It is a little weird. Usually we chat for like 10-15 minutes at the beginning, and then we turn on mute and just do our own thing for like 30-45 minutes, and then we, chat about it at the end, and we say goodbye. And that's when I get most of my writing done these days.
I love it. It's like a level of accountability between each other. That's huge. I think that's really cool.
That is mind blowing.
Alan's interest has peaked.
I would be a little bit like, oh my God, there's somebody watching me while I do this right now. Like I was that person always that like when I haven't been a full day in the office in a long time.
Yeah.
When I was sharing like shared space in the office with people, I was always the guy like, don't look over here. I'm typing.
I actually, I get a little insecure about when I talk too loud. I'm a loud talker, which as you've all caught on 57 episodes later. I talk loud, and then I'm always like, am I like should be quiet? Like, so what do I do? And then I get excited and I'm shouting. I know, like it's a whisper game. Yeah. Anyway, that's no, that makes sense, and that's I think you're well on your way to having that be a thing, and we're excited and looking forward to when that announcement comes out in due time that Cassidy is a published short story writer and ready to rock.
It's for me, I'm putting the like similarity to like the music world of like when artists are like, I'm gonna put out a single and then another single and then I'm gonna put another track out and eventually that's gonna become an album. So it seems like that's the strategy, sort of.
Yeah, I think taking notes from other art types, like genres, is helpful too. Like visual artists, musicians, the way they market themselves and do things,
Sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great, Cassidy. Well, hey, this has been such a joy to obviously hang out with you and hear more about your side hustle life I didn't really know about until like 2 Fridays ago, which is super cool. I know you have the right, but didn't know how much work you're doing. Now, if someone's really interested about maybe they want to do a writing session, maybe they want to pick your brain a little bit about your experience, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So I do have a website. It's my name, CassidyMcCants.com. There's like a contact box there, whatever that's called. Contact me. I'm also on all the social medias and things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to.
That's perfect. And that if the other Cassidy McCants in this world, that domain is taken. So I'm sorry, folks, but you're going to pick Cassidy McCants. The real Cassidy McCants, please stand up. That's
there we go. Now we know.
Now we know.
That's the one.
Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. If you want to get in touch with this podcast, Alan, tell them how they can do that.
Yeah.
Because I forgot the spiel.
If you are listening for the 57th time or the first time, hello. Thank you so much for listening. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We're on TikTok.
All the things.
All of the things. We are hustling sideways everywhere. Make sure you go follow us there because in addition to this show, you also get little micro pieces of content from us all the time too.
Cool. They put little captions on there and it's like someone's listening. They're always listening.
It's always somebody listening. If you want to be a guest on the show and if you want to sit in the room here with us or be on Zoom like Cassidy is in Oklahoma, you can do that by sending us an email over at hustlingsideways@gmail.com. And Jim, now that you're in the room,
keep on hustling.
We will see you next time.